we are finally ready to set up some interactivity amongst the boards that we've designed. And as you can see, I created a few more than what we had from the last video. And this is just content. Once again, this is just showcasing to the user, not to the client, what the application is going to look like. Now, you want to spend a lot of time working on these designs because this is going to drive the final look and feel of the actual application. And chances are you're going to be using some of these elements, actually the styles, as you move them into the components and into the character styles and all that, for the actual development process. So when this goes to an actual team of developers, they can actually pick from the stuff that you've already defined, which will maintain the continuity of the look and feel of the application you're working on or the presentation. So in this case, I just want to connect some of these different boards and show you how to do the preview in the application itself. So let's zoom into this area here, into the sign-in area. And if I want to sign in, for example, first things first, this is illegible here. These links are illegible. So I want to change the background image to something that allows for these characters to pop. So I want to select that image, and this is just an image. It's just a container with an image. Notice that selecting that image allows me to do several things to the actual image down here. So I can add things such as shadows, borders, or change the actual blurriness of the image in the background. So if I select that option on, it turns everything off because by default it's under background blur, and background refers to the actual background of the board, meaning the color that I had already set up there, which is this. And if I blurred that color, it's not going to look any different. But notice that under blur, background blur, I also have the option to select the object. So that's going to give me access to my object, whatever I have selected in this case, which is the image. And then I can increase the object blur to something that is a little bit more pleasing to the eye, and will probably let this text pop a little bit more. Now I see that I probably want to change that font to a white font, so I'm going to change that, and that pops a little bit better. And so now what I want to do is, now, as I said before, I want to start creating the interactivity amongst the different elements. Now, creating interactivity on this is fairly easy as long as you have maintained the idea of how your flow of information is going to go on the presentation, or if you have helped yourself by creating a flow chart from the beginning, then you should have all this information on how things are going to connect in the prototype. So with that done, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and select, you can either connect boards to boards or objects to boards. So in this case, I want to click my create account, and first things first, I want to make sure that this is my home page. So to do all that, I need to switch from design to prototype. So when I do that, you will notice that as I select the different boards, the boards basically have this little tab next to them, which tells you which one's the home page. So if I want this to be my home page, which is what I want, I'll click on that and it'll turn blue. So that's where my flow starts. Then I can either click on this icon here to connect to another board if I want to have the entire board be the button that was going to push me to the next action. Or if I want to, I can go ahead and select an object only. In this case, they create a count, and that's going to point to this one. So if I click on that and drag out, you'll notice that I have like a little wire that sticks out of the component, and then I can point it to either a board or the board next to it, which is right here. Now that connection can have any number of transitions, and all of that is defined by the interaction properties that you have on this panel. So right now it's got a transition. The transition is none. I can also have it auto animate if I want to. I can overlay, scroll to, and all. All these things are the way I can go ahead and connect those two boards, and I encourage you to play with them. For now, I'm going to use an animation that is just going to simply slide left. So if I do that, it's going to push the item to the left, and then it gives me timing, and I can also add ease out on this, or ease in and out, snap, wind up, bounce. So I have a whole lot of presets based on the same things that we were working on Animate, and that we will be seeing in design. These are pretty much shared across all of the software. So these are basically transitions and creating a bit of, not elasticity, a little bit of more natural motion amongst the different states of an animation. So I'm going to keep it on easy out or ease out for now, and that's all I'm going to do. That's the first connection I'm going to make. If I want to test this, I'll select the board that I want to start from, and then I'll click my play button up here. When I click on that, this is going to display something that mimics the screen of the device that I'm going to be working on. And then when I roll over whatever I have activated, it will give me the little finger telling me you are ready to test. So if I click on that, you will notice that the second board pushed the other board aside, and now I can click on continue if the person creates an account. And if I want to create that workflow within my prototype, then I would create a series of pages that go past this point, showcasing what they would look like. Okay, so I will go ahead, and besides that, I want to go ahead and say, okay, I'm already signed in. If I click on I have an account, I want to move on to the welcome page here. So if I want to do that, I'm going to click and drag onto that board, and you'll notice that it is connected. And if I go test this, now I have two hot spots. They create an account, and they already have an account. So when I click on they already have an account, it'll take me to that page, and I can change the transition if I want to, and I can do this dynamically. So if, for example, I go test on this, I'm on the first page. If I'm going to go change this, instead of slide left, I want to say push left, then I'll go ahead and say, okay, let's take a look at that and see what happens. Now you notice how that pushed the thing instead of sliding over, creating the fake parallax view. So let's go ahead and test that again. It pushed the entirety of the app, and that's also another way of transitioning between things. Now this is obviously a much longer layout, and you'll notice that I have a little scroll bar on the right hand side, and that means that I can go ahead and use, if I were previewing this in a device, and by the way, you can preview these things in devices, you can go ahead and scroll by tabbing and scrolling up or down. Now you'll notice that I have the different options of the different different images and everything that I created within that layout, and I can go ahead and start linking some of the things. For example, when I click on that heart, it will turn red. So I'm going to use that object to connect. I'm going to double click until I get to it, to connect to add to favorite, or add to my collection option, which is this one right here. And so I now have 3 levels of navigation. Let's go to the sign in page. If I click on that, I already have an account, scroll down, and if I click on the heart, it's going to take me to that particular page. And I can change yet again the transition between those 2 pages. So if I select heart and I change the transition, let me actually dig in all the way till I get in there. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to double click on that. So if I want to change that, say for example, instead of push left, I want it to slide up or slide down, then that's the transition that's going to happen. Now be careful with how you choose those transitions so that they don't become overwhelming and then distract from the actual interactions that you're trying to have your users do when they're creating these applications. So just like this, you can go ahead and keep on adding and moving things around and basically connecting the flow of the application. One thing that is important to know is, for example, if I click on this guy, I'm going to say this guy is going to connect to this page right here. And then I want this little icon in my navigation to click back. So if I click on that and I say, you know what, I want this to move backward towards the other page, I can go ahead and say, I want this to be, hold on, where is it? I want to go ahead and I can go ahead and change the transition to push back to the previous board where it came from. So right here under transition, I can say previous artboard. And what that's going to do is it's going to send it back to the welcome page. So let's go back to the sign in page and test this. Once I do that, I already have an account. It's going to take me to my page with products. If I click on this guy, it's going to take me to my to the one that adds it to my collection. If I click on this guy, it's going to take me to the chair, and this is also a scroll-in one, and if I click on the back button, it's going to take me back to the previous artboard. So now I can see that I can start creating navigation that goes back and forward. Now I probably need to at this point resize my icons because they're gigantic, so it's going to be a back and forward amongst the the process of design and adding interaction into the different elements on your prototype. Now, one last thing I want to do here is I want to show you that you can actually have some kind of extra design. So I want to make these images pop here. So let's say, for example, I want to have this, so assume that this is the one that's selected because we see the orange. So I'm going to go back to design. I'm going to create a box. I'm going to place the box right on top of that other image that I have here. So let me actually click outside of it right here, and I'm going to click, sorry. selected, and I'm gonna click out here, boom, create a frame, and this frame is not gonna have any outline and it's not gonna have any border, but I want it to have a drop shadow. So if I click on that, I apply a drop shadow to this, and I can go ahead and start sending this backward by using the same shortcuts that I use in other software such as Photoshop or Illustrator, which is Control and open bracket, or Control close bracket. Close bracket to bring up, open bracket to send back. Then I can go ahead and modify the position of the item and even the sizing if I want to, so that I can go ahead and create the effect of having a drop shadow. I can also add it to the image, by the way. So in this case, I could have just selected that image and add the drop shadow to it. But since they all share the same component, chances are it's going to add it to all three, and that's why I didn't do it that way. So now this one has that drop shadow. It makes it look like it's popping. And let's say, for example, I have a lot of empty space here at the bottom, and I see that those little swatches are on top of my image, and I want to see more of the image. Then it's just as easy, just by creating, since all of these have been put into components and into group grids, then I can go ahead and move them by selecting them. Fairly easy. I can just go ahead and select groupings of them actually, and move everything so that I open up my layout a little bit easier. You'll notice that as I move, I get a lot of helpers, things popping up, and windows popping up, and the little fuchsia little things that give me the spacers. Those are time savers because they allow me to visualize what space I have fairly fast, and allow me to clean up my designs as I prototype, which is the key. The key to this entire exercise is to show that you can create something functional fairly fast, so that your user can actually get an idea of what you will be creating for them based on the basic designs, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time on the actual working on interactivity and all this before the actual before the client actually says, okay, this is what I like, or I change that, or make any cherry picking. That is very common. So this is basically a time saver to be able to create these prototypes this fast, and be able to present it to them in a way that they can actually preview. Now they can preview it like this, but there's also a way of sending this to mobile devices, and for that you need to have your the application, the XD application for your mobile device. So if you click on mobile, you actually can go ahead and enable this on iOS by downloading the app, or on the Android by downloading the cloud viewer into your mobile device. And by clicking on this link, it'll take you there. And because these items you can either save on your computer or on the cloud, I suggest that if you're going to be sharing them for preview and for review, you should just go ahead and save everything to the cloud, and then this will allow you directly from this icon here to go ahead and share for preview with someone and actually send it to your actual physical device. There's also another way that you can actually download it to your mobile device, and that is basically so that you can actually see it directly onto your device as you're connected to the computer that you're working on. But this is the most followed workflow when you're actually working with clients. Is you send this through, you ask them to download the XD application or the viewer, and then they should be able to see this and share this. That is if you work in an ecosystem where they actually have access to that application. But if not, you can actually just save this file as is, and then you can preview it to them. You can show it to them. Now, the beautiful thing about this before we finish this video is that you have a lot of space in your board. And what that means is in your pasteboard. And what that means is that you not only need to stick to creating one project per specific device. You could actually, that's why I like this program so much for prototyping, because you can go ahead and create a whole lot of, like, take a look at this. There's a series of different layouts for different versions of this presentation for different devices. So you have website, you have kiosk, you have tablet, you have mobile device, all of them. And because you are using the assets window and saving those symbols and those assets in your library, you can go ahead and reuse fairly quick as you are designing, which leaves you basically with organizing the items within the device in a way that is legible and that follows the good practices that we've been learning about in interactive production. So it removes the pain of having to recreate everything from scratch by reutilizing these symbols across different layouts in a very fast manner, and to maintain consistency, which is extremely important when it comes to branding and to making sure that all products that you are providing your clients or that you're creating for yourself have that consistency, that people do actually see your brand and understand what it is about.